This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
Abstract. The movie The Last of the Mohicans is based on the novel directed by James Cooper. It narrates the story of the character Hawkeye. Hawkeye is a colonial settler who was adopted by a Mohican family at the demise of his parents, as he was helping a British military regiment through the New York forest during the French and Indian War. This war was all about competition between the French and the English to control American colonies. As depicted in this movie, the colonial militia and Mohicans allied with the British, while the French allied with indigenous Huron. The film also explores the romantic relationship between Hawkeye and Cora, the daughter of Monroe, a British colonel. This romance between Hawkeye and Cora Monroe is interwoven into a political episode of war and colonialism on the early American frontiers. Discussion. The movie The Last of the Mohicans is set during the French and Indian War, when the French and English monarchies were competing for control of the northeastern part of America, which included Canada. During the war, the two colonial powers co-opted Indian tribes into the war with them. In this essay, I will discuss four main themes depicted in this film: the frontier experience, the changing relationship between the English and the American settlers or colonials, the question of American identity, and lastly, the symbols of group identity. The movie originates in James Cooper's 1876 novel, which narrates the story of the last three Mohicans, Chingachgood, his son Ungas, and his adopted son Hawkeye. The first scenes of the movie show Hawkeye and his adopted Mohican family hunting together and interacting with frontier colonists in their cabins. In this section, the film is portrayed as an adventure set in 1757. It should be remembered that this was the third year since the French and Indian War broke out in 1754. During this war, the English forged a partnership with the Indian natives, the Mohicans, while the Huron Indian tribe fought for the French colonists. While the family was hunting across the frontier, they came across a troop of British soldiers who were transporting generals' daughters, Cora and Alice Monroe. At that time, a gang of Huron Indians attacked the soldiers and murdered all but two girls and a soldier. The Mohican family rushed to the scene in time, rescued the survivors, and whisked them to safety. Unfortunately, their thoughts were misguided, as it turned out to be one of the many battles in the French and Indian War. In this battle, General Monroe, the father of the two girls, was also fighting. The second section of this movie explores the changing relationship between the English and the American settlers or colonials. This section explores four important themes for discussion, such as the interests of colonial powers, political alliances, loyalty, and the role of the settlers and Native Americans. The Mohican family is seen moving west to winter in their town of Ohio, where Uncas will find a woman to marry and increase the number of his tribe, which is faced with extinction. Also living in this settlement are frontier colonial families, some of whom were discriminated servants from England. The British expected these people to serve as colonial militia who would fight alongside them against the French and Allies. Yet the settlers are seen to be undecided between being loyal to the monarchy or surviving the difficult conditions in the frontier. The role and loyalties of the Native Americans in this film are clear. For instance, the movie shows Cora and Alice under the guidance of Major Haywood Duncan, leaving for Fort William Henry to meet their father, General Monroe. On their way, Magua from the Huron tribe disguises himself as a Mohawk and tricks the British into entrusting the girls into his care. Prior to this occurrence, Magua had personally sworn upon the British general's family for an assault on his family. On their way to the fort, the Huron tribe attacks the British. Fortunately, the assault is thwarted by Hawkeye, Chingachgook, and Unga, who agree to guide the British girls and Major Duncan to Fort William Henry. The scenes in this movie adequately address the question of the identity of Americans. This is depicted right from the beginning of the movie, when Hawkeye is shown hunting with his adopted family and interacting with frontier settlers in their cabin. The movie also depicts the notion of savagery and civilization on the part of cast characters. Throughout the movie, Hawkeye, Chingachgood, and Uncas are portrayed as noble savages. They are shown risking their dear lives and limbs, protecting the interests of the British while still being true to their heritage and beliefs. Last but not least, this film enumerates ways of life in early America. For instance, it gives comparisons between British ways of living imported to American colonies. This is shown when Cora, Alice, and Duncan enjoy a tea party in Albany, New York. This is in contrast with the hard life led by the American colonists on the frontiers. In conclusion, this film addresses the French-Indian War, the colonial period of American history, and the possible causes of the American Revolution. It also brings out comparisons across time periods of issues such as American national identity, race, idea of frontier, savagery and civilization, and others. If you want to find more works like this essay on The Last of the Mohicans movie and 7 Years' War, head over to ivypanda.com. It has a collection of free samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects. No registration required to access it.